Hello, marshals. Hello, people. Once again, I did that. Mic's over here, camera's over, and I'm talking to the mic and looking at the mic. Whatever. Here we are, back for another setup guide and some, well, you can say sort of a track guide, how to drive around Spain. A little bit of a disclaimer, of course. Here we are, uh, trying to understand how to get around the track as quickly as possible. Now again, I'm not some esports level or whatever kind of a driver, but pretty decent on my own ratings. So if you want, you can follow this, and perhaps you could just find maybe the 2-3 tenths, maybe even a second in your lap time. That will be great and wonderful news. Now, so let's take a look at how do we drive around Spain in the first place. Let me just go back to the pit lane real quick and show you the setup before we proceed to do anything else. And this is a custom setup that I've created, so let me just save it to the Spain setup, and then we'll take a look at the setup that we have around here. Right, so Spain is going to be pretty high downforce, and you naturally want to be running as high possible wings, but not too high, because there is a pretty long straight on this track here. And if you go any higher than usually 39 rear wing, I'd say it's going to be pretty bad on the straights, and you're going to be overtaken quite easily. Then again, you need to be pretty close following someone in sector 1, 2 and in sector 3 in order to be able close enough to make an overtake. So you need the gap around 5 tenths or 6 tenths at most. Then you are able to make the overtake with enough DRS, slipstream, ERS as well, and a bit of luck into turn 1. If you can send it on the inside, then good enough. Now 44, 37 is pretty much the same wing setup as the previous time trial world record setup. The newer one has been using just 2 clicks higher wings. That's all the difference. There's not much in it. Transmission, I've been using 55, 51 around here. So again, default is a 55, 50, even 50, 50, you can use it. The only difference is when you go lower on the on throttle, it gives you a lot more rotation under acceleration. So as you're turning into a corner, the rear wants to move a bit more. That can be good if you want to get a little bit more rotation in the high speed corners. But coming out of slower corners, you definitely want a bit more on throttle so that you get a bit better traction, less movement while you're trying to accelerate in a straight line. Off throttle again is to keep the car a bit more balanced when you're off throttle. When you're coasting into corners, you're braking into corners, having a bit of off throttle adds a bit of stability that you may need. Now again, it's important to notice the difference here in time trial and in an actual race condition. In time trial, in some parts of the track it's going to be more understeery, some parts going to be more oversteery. That's because you have ERS turned on to Hotlap all the time. Alright, so initially on power it's going to be a lot more oversteery, but as you go through a long corner, it's going to get more and more understeery because the car wants to push forward at maximum power. So it's important to not take a time trial setup at its value. Make sure you test it out in a Grand Prix mode, in a practice mode, and adjust the small things to make sure it suits your race setup. Now this suits my race, so that's why I went with it. Now suspension geometry, right, left, the usual. There's not much change around here. I did try with a click higher toe. That actually helped in the race condition and in the actual qualifying session, just to get the car turned in a bit more sooner into the corners. You may or may not like it, but if you have park Fermi turned on, just use this, you'll be fine. Suspension, this is where again you can cater the car to your driving style. Once again, the default, let me just show you, it was something like this and this. So what I've done is I've reduced the rear suspension down to 9 after testing it out multiple iterations, and that felt just nice coming out of corners in here and in the race condition as well. And the ride height, I've reduced it to 32, 39, just 1 click lower, because it feels nice to drive around with slightly lower ride height. It feels a bit more planted as well coming out of corners. Now if you're very progressive on your throttle, you're not too aggressive on it, this is going to be good. But if you are the kind of person who wants to smash the throttle every time into a corner, out of a corner as well, then you may need slightly higher, 1 click higher, to make sure that the car is able to take the load. And anti-roll bar as well, if you go higher on the rear, like I said, as usual, it's going to increase the amount of movement in the car. The rear wants to move a lot more in the high speed and even coming out of corners. If you don't like that, you can put it down all the way to 1 like I've done. So far I like it on 1 anti-roll bar on the rear. It feels just nice to drive across all tracks. The front, you have to adjust it according to your needs. Now if you feel like coming out of corners the front is too pointy or the rear is losing its back, losing grip on exit, then you want to go as high as you can go. So for me the sweet spot was 5. If I went 6, it started to be a bit understeer in exit. If I went 4, it was just a bit more oversteery, but I didn't like it. 5 was just nice. So again, these are the things you can try it out and experiment to find out, maybe you can find a sweet spot in your setup. Brakes 100% as always on the pressure, and on the brake bias, this is subject to your own liking. If you have a very understeery setup, you can use 53 and 54 into turn 1. I use 54, just feels nice for me, whereas throughout the rest of the track you could still use 53. Into turn 10, the last heaviest braking zone, I use 54 just so the rear doesn't come around. And in the race you can always go 1 click higher. 55 or 56 is just nice to be used in a race condition. Tire pressures, all minimum. That's what you probably want to be running in a race, but depending on the conditions on that day, if it's super sunny you may want to be running minimum. If it's overcast, you can get away like with 5 clicks of pressure on the front, maybe 3 or 4 on the rear, similar to the world record setup. You want the tire pressures to be, tire temperatures to be around 95 to 105 for the C3, and then C4 is C2 is going to be 97.5 to 107.5, and then the C1, the hardest tire in Spain, is going to be from 100 degrees to 110. So there's a sweet spot of 5 degrees there from 100 to 105. That's where you want to aim for all your tires to be at, soft, mediums and hards. Okay, so that's a recap of setup. 44, 37, 55, 51. You can go up to 60 in the race, which is actually nice to drive because you're not fully flat out most of the time, especially in dirty air as well. You can even go 52 off throttle for the race. That's also optional to make it more drivable, more stable in the race. Geometry is going to be the same. Suspension again, like we've talked about it, you can adjust it accordingly. Brake bias and brake pressure 154, and minimum tire pressures to start off is safe enough for all tracks. Now that we have covered that, I'd like to take a moment to invite you to join the Singh Racing community server, the Discord server. So links will be, I don't know, somewhere in the top left, top right, whichever it may be, and in the description as well. So make sure you join us, and then there's plenty of talks going around on how to set up the car. You're looking for some certain setups that I don't have yet, the community may have it, you can always request it. And we're also working on a setup bot which is going to help you with customizing a setup. Say you have understeer at high speed corners or oversteer coming out of slow speed corners. What do you do with your setup? All those things are available in the server, in the bot. Of course, community feedback goes into it as well. It will be improved from time to time. I invite you to join and have fun in it. Now, that's done. If you want to leave right now, sure, you can go ahead. If you want to take a look at the track guide, now let's end the session and then show you how to take the track, as good as possible or as humanly as possible that I can explain of. Now let's take a look at our fastest lap over here, which is going to be the one that we just did. And again, there's going to be some discrepancies between my best time that I did over 2 weeks ago and this one, just because some setup, they are understeery in time trial, but they may become more stable in a race. So again, don't take it at face value if the setup is bad or good. You have to try it out to see if that's good enough. Now to set up the entry into the last corner here, you want to be as flat as possible, and then sometimes only a lift is needed depending on your setup, or downshift to 6th gear as tight as you can to the apex here. You notice that it is a bit bumpy on the entry, so you want to be sticking to the inside of the corner here as close as you can. You can even go tighter than this on the curb, but you have to be careful not to overturn your car while you're on the curbs. And then let the car straighten out on the exit run over the exit curb, but not too wide. If you go any further than that, it's going to start to bottom out on the curbs and you're going to lose a bit of top speed heading into turn 1. DRS as soon as possible, and then let the car run down into turn 1. And you don't want to be cutting into the curb like last year's game. You can cut it early. This year you want to avoid cutting it so early, because you will pick up some marbles which will compromise your entry to turn 1. So as soon as you pass the 150-meter board, that's when you start to go over the curbs to open up the entry into turn 1. So brake, in qualifying you can brake just between 50 and 100, which is about 75 meters, or this red post, the orange post on the left, or the gray part of the track. These are all good references. If you're looking at the right, again, there's orange post over there, which is going to be a good secondary reference in case you have someone blocking your vision into turn 1 here. All right, in the race you'll probably be braking just after the 100 meters and around 80 or 90 meters, so that you don't overshoot the corner into turn 1. Now down to 5th gear into turn 1. In the race you can take it in 4th as well. Again, it's going to be slightly tight on entry. You have to go as close as possible to the exit, to the entry curve here, without touching the yellow sausage. So it's as close as you can get here. We're just swooshing past that yellow curve there, and then once you're past that, once you're at the apex, start accelerating, but not 100%. You can go about 50 to 75% or 80% throttle, and then aim for this exit curve as well. Plant your car on it as much as you can. Avoid that yellow sausage. Once again, that yellow sausage is going to kick your car off, and keep it flat around here. And sometimes if you're lucky, you can get a bit straighter exit. This time around I went a bit wide, but luckily in this game you can still bring the car back tight onto the apex. In qualifying you can touch the curve as much as you want, and then stay tight, and then let it flow to the exit on the left here. Now in a race condition, you'll probably be letting the steering open up a bit, follow the normal racing line that it is, so that you don't scrub too much speed on your tires, don't overheat the tires, and don't wear them out too much. Either way, into turn number 4 here, you want to be braking just slightly before the 50-meter board if you're riding on board in your car. Just as you hit the board on top of you, that's where you want to be start braking. And then down to 5th, push the car as much as you can into the corner, into the apex, and then drive out of it. Let the car run wide on the exit once again to carry as much speed as possible, and then smooth on the throttle, flat out as soon as you can. Bring back the car over to the right hand side and prepare for the entry into turn 5, which is going to be a bit downhill, so you have to brake slightly earlier sort of, and turn the car into the corner as much as you can. Now the brake marker here, it's pretty hard to spot if you're not using racing lines. There is a small Marshall post on the right hand side, the white thingy. That's what you can use, or just as you are about to finish the green part of the Rolex board, that's where you start braking. And then you want to bring your car over to the right again as much as you can. Go onto the curb and onto the AstroTurf as well, without touching the grass. If you touch the grass, it's going to delay your braking a little bit. Now down into 4th gear, 3rd gear even on the exit, go up to 4th again. And then as you can see, the track limits are super on the limit here. It's just like a millimeter of the tires touching the white line. If you want to maximize your lap time, that's how you're going to be doing it. On the exit, you can stay tight to the left or just keep it straight, because the next turn comes up very quickly. So as soon as the curb starts around here, you want to be braking down to 5th or even 4th. Take the car in close into the apex here. Alright, turn 7 here. And then this is probably the trickiest part of the entire circuit, because if you fail the entry, you're probably going to fail the exit as well. And there are sausage curve on the outside here which are going to punish you very hard. So brake a bit earlier if you need to, coast the car into the corner, and then open up your steering and start accelerating as well. You can ride the sausage curves, you can, but you can't go over it. So this is as much as you can do without spinning the car. And then stay tight onto the left before turn 9 here. Turn 9 is going to be flat out in qualifying and almost flat in the race when you have low fuel. And then the turning point here is sort of a blind entry, but as soon as this red and white part of the curb ends, before it starts to close up on the curbs, that's where you turn in. Stay tight on the apex without touching the yellow sausage, as tight as you can. And then as soon as you hit this apex, straighten out your car, let the car gain forward momentum, and then DRS as soon as possible. You can run a bit wider on the exit if you need to, but not too wide, similar to turn 1. And then into turn number 10. You want to push your brake bias forward by 1% maybe if you need to, so that you can brake quite aggressively and heavily. Again, go onto the exit curve over here. You want to line up your car on the red and white curve and also the AstroTurf, the green AstroTurf, so that you open up the entry ever so slightly a bit more. And as soon as you pass the 100-meter board, brake down into 4th gear or even 3rd gear, whichever you need. I prefer to take it in 4th all the time. And then aim for these yellow sausage curves, but not touching them. So as tight as you get to the apex, and then open up the exit. So this corner, like in real life, it's a bit tricky to take. In real life, drivers normally take it even tighter on entry and let the car run wide on the exit onto the green AstroTurf part. There is grip there in real life, but in the game there is no grip. So you want to avoid that. Take a more conventional racing line and then let the car run wide, but not touching the white line or the green part of it. You can touch the white line, but you can't touch the green part of it. That's where you're going to lose grip. So this is as close as I can get, being comfortable with the track limits. And then bring back the car to the left if you're tight enough, and then throw the car into the apex of this turn 12, I believe. And then you don't want to be running too wide on the entry here, because if you try to go back on power as soon as possible, the car will try to snap on you. So this is still okay. You can go even tighter than this, but once you start accelerating, you have to open up the steering little by little, and then be confident on throttle. Believe in the car, it's going to have the grip in it. And I was not that confident on my this run, but on my best run I definitely was. So I lost the 10th on this attempt. I could go a bit wider on the exit, but this is as much as it could go. And then next part, which is turn 13, or is it turn 14, I don't know. You want to be turning right as soon as you hit the black box here. So just before you hit that, turn in early, clip the entry curve. You can clip a bit more than this, so that you gain a few more thousandths into the corner. Let the car run wide, and then again open up the entry into the last corner. There are 2 references around here. The 50-meter board is most likely going to be smashed by someone or even yourself. So your secondary reference here, if you want to turn in, is that orange part of the barrier on your right, or that black box on your left, or the end of the blue sponsor board on the left, the MSC Cruisers board on the left. So as soon as you pass the black box or the orange board on the right, turn in. You have to just lift a little bit to get the car turned into the apex. While qualifying for a race, you'll have to downshift to 6th, and then flat out on the exit, let the car run wide, DRS wide open, and there you go. Your lap around Spain is done. Oof. Okay, so that's how you nail Spain, sort of, and if you need any more assistance, of course, leave your comments down in the comment section, or you can also join the Discord server and ask any sort of things. There's a lot of people in there helping each other out, and that's what community should be doing. So thankful for them, thankful for you all for giving the support as well, and I'll see you all in the next setup, which is going to be for, let me think, it's going to be China, because I have a league race coming up in there. And I will see you all really soon. Take care everyone, stay safe, bye bye.